All right, welcome to another deep dive. Today we're going to be looking at something pretty interesting, your potential impact on the UK's digital transformation and economic growth.
Okay.
And this isn't just some kind of theoretical thing either. We're talking about directly tied to your application for the UK Global Talent Visa.
Right.
So to do that, we're going to be taking a look at all the information you've provided, which is quite a bit, actually.
Sure.
Your background in banking, all the work you've done as an Agile coach, and I was looking at this before, you've produced a ton of podcast episodes, like over 50, on Agile best practices, digital transformation case studies, all that good stuff.
Yeah. Yeah, I've been busy, I guess.
You have. And then there's even there's a patent in the works, too.
That's right, yep.
Yeah, so a lot to cover. But lucky for me, I've got an expert here
Yeah.
to help me break it all down. So welcome.
Well, thank you for having me. It's great to be here.
I'm glad to have you. So like I was saying, a ton of information to get through. I think we should just dive right in. What do you think?
Yeah, sounds good. Let's go for it.
All right. So the first thing that really jumped out to me when I was looking at all this was that you produced, like I said, over 50 podcast episodes and all on this big, pretty niche topic of Agile and digital transformation.
Yeah. Yeah.
Podcasts are super popular. People love them. You've obviously got the experience to do it. You know, you're able to produce this stuff, make it sound good.
Well, thank you.
So I guess the question is, like, what motivated you to go out and share all this knowledge with the world?
Well, I've been working in this field for a while now, and I really saw there was a lack of really practical, accessible content on Agile.
Right.
And I know a lot of businesses were really struggling with this whole digital transformation thing, right? And I knew Agile could really help them.
Right.
So I was thinking about ways to get that information out there. And it seemed like podcasts were kind of the perfect medium for that. They're easy to consume. People can listen to them on the go. And yeah, I really wanted to demystify these concepts and help as many people as possible.
Yeah, I mean, you're speaking my language. I love podcasts myself, and
Yeah.
it's true, they are very accessible. So speaking of helping people, I noticed in your materials you mentioned something called Agile clinics.
Yes.
I got to be honest, I'm not really sure what that is. It sounds kind of like a doctor's office for businesses that are struggling with Agile.
Yeah, I guess you could think of it that way. It's really a term that I came up with. I guess you could say it's my unique approach to Agile coaching, really. It's about providing really targeted support to businesses that are having some specific challenges in their Agile journey.
So you're really going in there, like diagnosing the problem and then figuring out the right solution. I like that.
Exactly.
So, okay, so we've talked about the Agile clinics, we've talked about the podcasts.
Yeah.
But you said that, a lot of digital transformation projects fail because they're not using Agile frameworks.
Yeah.
So for anyone listening who maybe isn't super familiar with the concept, could you just define digital transformation for us and then tell us why you think Agile is so important for that?
Sure, yeah. So digital transformation is basically, it's about integrating digital technology into every aspect of a business. It's really about fundamentally changing how a business operates and how it delivers value to customers. So, it's a pretty big undertaking. It impacts everything from how you interact with customers to, your internal processes.
Like a total overhaul.
Yeah, exactly. It's a pretty big shift.
Wow.
And that's why Agile is so important, because it gives you the flexibility and the responsiveness to be able to navigate all of these changes, all this complexity.
So can you give us an example of how Agile can actually lead to faster time to market? Maybe something from your experience in banking.
Sure, yeah. So I worked with a bank once that was trying to launch this new mobile banking app. And they were using a very traditional waterfall approach, which basically means they were doing all of the planning and all of the documentation up front. And it was really slowing them down. They were missing deadlines. They were, missing out on opportunities.
Yeah.
So we went in and helped them transition to a Scrum framework, which is a type of Agile.
Okay.
And what that did was it allowed them to break the project down into these smaller, more manageable chunks called sprints. And that way they were able to get a basic version of the app to market much, much faster.
Wow.
And then they could gather feedback from users. And then they could make changes and improvements based on that feedback.
So they were able to kind of iterate and improve as they went.
Exactly, yeah. And the result was that they were able to beat their competitors to market, and they saw a huge increase in customer satisfaction.
Wow, that's really impressive.
Yeah, it was a great success story.
So that's a great example from your experience in banking. But, you know, banking isn't the only sector in the UK economy.
Right.
How can the lessons that you learned in banking be applied to other sectors to kind of like boost economic growth across the board? I mean, I'm thinking about things like ESG, the energy sector. Those are pretty hot topics right now.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the beauty of Agile is that it's adaptable. It's not specific to any one industry. So you can take these principles and apply them to, to pretty much any sector. So for example, ESG. Companies are facing a lot of pressure right now to implement sustainable practices.
Right.
And Agile can really help them do that in a more strategic and iterative way. So, for example, let's say a company wants to, develop a new product line that has a lower environmental impact. They could use Agile to do that. They could, gather feedback at each stage of the process to make sure that they're meeting customer needs while also minimizing their environmental footprint.
And what about the energy sector? I mean, that's another one that's undergoing huge transformation right now with the move to renewables.
Yeah, for sure. Agile can be really transformative in the energy sector. It can help companies, adopt renewable energy sources more quickly, develop smart grids, respond to the changing needs of energy consumers. So, for example, an energy company could use Agile to pilot a new program for installing solar panels on residential homes.
Okay.
And they could gather data and feedback along the way and use that to optimize the process and then scale it up effectively.
So it's about like testing and iterating as you go.
Exactly, yeah.
I like it. Okay, so one last thing I wanted to touch on. You mentioned this pending patent for a playbook on how to run an agile clinic.
Yes.
I'm really curious about this. What kind of impact do you think this could have if this knowledge is kind of codified and shared with the world?
Well, I really hope that it will, help to democratize access to agile expertise. So, there are a lot of individuals and organizations out there that want to implement agile,
Right.
but they may not have the resources to, hire an agile coach or get that kind of personalized support. So my hope is that this playbook will kind of provide like a step-by-step guide that anyone can use to implement agile in their own organization.
So almost like an agile clinic in a box.
Exactly, yeah.
I like it. Okay, so we've covered a lot of ground here. It seems like you're really passionate about making agile accessible to everyone.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I really believe that Agile has the power to transform, not just businesses, but entire economies.
Wow.
When we embrace agility, we embrace innovation, collaboration, continuous learning, and I think those are really the qualities that are going to drive success in the 21st century.
Yeah, couldn't agree more. Well, I think this has been a really fascinating conversation. I've certainly learned a lot. I'm really starting to see how all of your experience and your knowledge ties into the UK's digital future and economic growth.
Well, thank you. It's been a pleasure talking to you.
Likewise. And for all of you listening out there, think about this. How can you be more agile in your own work and life?
That's a great question. It's not just about, managing projects. It's really a mindset of adaptability, responsiveness, continuous improvement. That's where the true power of Agile lies.
Some great food for thought. Thanks again for joining us, and we'll see you next time for another deep dive.
My pleasure. Thank you.